A decommissioned Cold War-era Soviet-designed fighter jet is on display at the Museum of Flight in Seattle, but it's landed as a stunning work of art celebrating resilience. It's covered in millions of beads featuring South African art. Joining us now, the lead artist on the project, Ralph Ziman. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, Ralph, first, could you tell us what inspired the MiG-21 project?
Yeah, the MiG-21 project is part of a larger project I've been working on for the last decade called Weapons of Mass Production, and it's to take it's to repurpose weapons of war and talk about peace, the proliferation of the arms trade, etc.
Now, could you talk about the design and the amount of time that went into this transformation of this jet?
Yeah, well, the design was probably the easiest, quickest part. You know, that was done on a computer to start with. The process of getting this fighter aircraft, and you know, it's got a huge surface area and it covered in African beadwork, took us about 5.5 years with about 100 people working on it.
5.5 years.
5.5 years.
People are seeing that here in Seattle for the first time. You mentioned briefly that this was part of a series of works of art, a trilogy really.
Yes.
And these are seen as, you know, weapons of war. They're known as weapons of war. Could you talk about what it means to transform them into something more powerful?
Yes, well, it's so great to be able to take a symbol of war and to, you know, do it in a way where people see it as something completely different. So, you know, what we've done is taken this most prolific fighter jet of all time and turned it into a work of art.
Now, you brought a few samples of this type of beading work. Could you maybe talk about this? What goes into putting something like that together and the significance of the design?
So, most of the surface of the aircraft is covered in this kind of beadwork. We would make up panels with colors and patterns on them and get various artisans in South Africa and Southern Africa to make it. So to think these tiny size 8 seed beads, you know, cover the entire surface of a jet plane is quite something.
It really is. And inside of it too.
And and the cockpit too.
The cockpit.
You know, what's amazing about this is there is no loom, there's no mechanized process. This is done one bead at a time on a needle.
All by hand.
All by hand.
That's incredible.
Yes, 100%.
If people attend, what can they expect to see from the MiG-21 project?
It's the fighter jet itself, which is completely covered in beads, as we said, but also there's a huge body of work, photographs, beaded panels, other artwork, helmets, the regalia that we used, and a series of photographs using the regalia, which sort of reimagine the history of the jet.
That's amazing. All right, well, for a link to the exhibit and more information about the Museum of Flight, text the word JET to 206-448-4545. We'll send you that link directly to your phone or your laptop. Thank you so much for being here, Ralph.
Thank you so much for having me.
We really appreciate it.